Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty ended the day's high after a late recovery. Bank stocks shine, mid-caps outperform again. Gold prices near record highs on Dhanteras. Maruti Suzuki misses estimates in Q2, profit down 17%, margins at a 5-quarter low. Positive commentary on festive demand helps the stock recoup some losses, but the management warns of weak demand post the festive season. Prime Minister Modi launches projects worth over 12,000 crore rupees for the healthcare and medical sectors. This includes 5 greenfield projects under the PLI for medical devices and bulk drugs. Pharma Secretary says the growth of the biosimilars market is outpacing that of the generics industry. Says approvals for 100 biosimilars have been received, with 40 more in the pipeline. Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth says 7% growth is doable in the current fiscal. He expects strong growth in Q3 and Q4, confident of meeting the FY25 capex target despite slower capital spends by some states. Bharti Airtel reports a better than expected Q2, but leadership change announcement weighs on the stock. The Chief Operating Officer Shashwat Sharma will succeed current CEO Gopal Vittal as the MD and CEO starting January 2026. Vittal says he remains fully committed to the group and will take on some roles that Sunil Mittal looks at today. Market regulator SEBI poses 5 questions to Axis Bank and Max Financial over the terms of their merger. Asked if the discounted pricing was arrived at to benefit Axis Bank. Also asked why action should not be taken against the entities for hurting investor interest. That's an exclusive. The Nagpur police identify a 35-year-old man as the person behind a series of hoax bomb threats to airlines. A special team has been formed to arrest him. More than 400 flights have been disrupted due to bomb hoaxes in the last 2 weeks. A 17-year-old from Chhattisgarh is the only suspect to be detained so far. Trump and Harris continue their campaigning key swing states. Kamala Harris reaches out to young voters in Michigan, urges them to turn page. Trump campaigns in Georgia, tells a crowd at a rally that he is the opposite of a Nazi amidst criticism of the Madison Square Garden event. Outgoing President Biden casts an early ballot in Delaware. And the festive spirit is rubbing off on the real estate sector. Home sales are seeing an uptick. A special report comes up. Well, let's start with the market action of the day. We did see the Lal Street making a recovery today, coming off its intraday lows, ending at the day's high. The Nifty and the Sensex ended about 0.5% higher today, while the broader markets outperformed. Nifty Bank was up over 1,000 points. Very strong performance coming in today, 2% higher. The Nifty Auto Index was down by about 1.5%, and the stocks there continue to be weighed over the uncertainty in demand. So that's the market snapshot for you. But Dhanteras and global gold prices lingering near record highs today, supported by uncertainty surrounding the upcoming US presidential election. Meanwhile, profit-taking pushed silver prices marginally lower after hitting a 12-year high. And back home, the yellow metals prices hitting a record high on the day of Dhanteras, with silver following suit. Manisha's here with more. Manisha, what's triggering this bull run in both gold and silver?
Yes, it's an all-time high of gold and silver prices this Dhanteras to you. Well, remember, people buy on Dhanteras or they start something new, believing that whatever you buy or start this day will multifold, manyfold going forward. And it has been a tradition for many, many years. But this time around, there's a bit of a dent here because you are looking at all-time high prices for gold and silver. In the international markets, we've seen gold prices trade above $27.50 an ounce. In the Indian markets, it's trading at 80,000 rupees at 10 grams on Dhanteras today, perhaps 81,000 as well if you add making charges to that. It's the same case for silver also, 12-year highs in the international markets, but the Indian prices are trading at 1 lakh rupees. Well, last year, the prices were trading at around 70,000. So it has been a huge jump up that you've seen come in for silver prices. It has been strong gains across, and that is because we are looking at a lot of buying in the international markets because of the safe haven buying that gold sees. And this is happening even as there is some restraint that we've seen from Israel and Iran. So somewhat of a war premium seems to have gone down. And then apart from that, the Treasury yields are trading at a 3-month highs. The dollar index is headed for a best monthly gain since April 2022. Even with all of this, there is no decline or respite that you've seen for gold and silver. In fact, the traders are watching out the geopolitical tensions in the global markets. It is also about global central bank buying and a lot of uncertainty because of the US presidential elections as well. So you want to stay invested in tangible commodities, and what better than gold and silver there. I want to take you through prices on what the prices have been on on Dhanteras in last many years. So if I can take you through that, in 2019, we were trading at prices of around 38,000 rupees. And then after 2 or 3 years, we've been trading between that 45 to 55,000 rupees. But it was last year that the prices were trading at 60,000 rupees on Dhanteras. And this time around, as you can see, we are at 80,000. So 20,000 rupees per 10 grams of a price rise in the matter of last 1 year. Also, silver has been rising as well. As I told you, last year was 70,000 rupees. This time is 1 lakh rupees. And this is what we've done in sense of silver imports into the country. It was at record in 2022, fell in the 2023 because we already had imported a lot of silver. And this year, until now, we've done 7,000 tons of imports already. This is a very interesting chart which tells you that on an average, on Diwali Dhanteras week, we buy 20 to 25 tons of silver and 500 to 800 tons of silver as well. So between gold and silver, the markets do anticipate that this number could go higher in this year. One, because the trust in gold and silver is high. Two, there are various ways of buying it. And three, with the kind of returns that you have seen come in for gold and silver, markets believe that the returns could only go higher going forward.
Well, Manisha, many thanks. I can say I haven't contributed to either gold or silver sales, but Bitcoin prices have crossed the $70,000 mark for the first time since June. This as inflows into dedicated exchange-traded funds rose amid speculation about the results of the U.S. presidential elections next week. Now, experts say the market is pricing in a victory for Donald Trump, who has endorsed cryptocurrencies in his campaign. Meanwhile, tensions in West Asia remain one of our top stories. The Israeli parliament has passed a law banning the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees from operating on Israeli territory in areas under its control. The ban will take effect in 90 days and will lead to the closure of the UN agency's premises in West Bank and Gaza. World leaders have denounced the ban and called the move intolerable and illegal. The UN agency has slammed the move as outrageous. An Israeli airstrike has also destroyed a 5-story residential building sheltering displaced families in Gaza. The attack has killed at least 93 Palestinians and wounded dozens of others. Meanwhile, Lebanon's health ministry has confirmed that at least 60 people have been killed after an Israeli attack on eastern Lebanon. Meanwhile, the Hezbollah has announced that the group's Deputy Secretary General will become its new head. Naeem Qasim will replace the group's long-term leader, Hassan Nasrallah, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut last month. On to earnings. Shares of Maruti dipping in trade after the auto major's earnings for the second quarter came in below street estimates. Now, the company also reported weak margins, registering a 5-quarter low, and this was largely impacted by low volume. Sudarshan is standing by now to take us through Maruti's numbers and, more importantly, the management's commentary. Sud.
The biggest car maker of the country, Maruti Suzuki, has reported earnings for Q2, that is quarter ending September, and those earnings look largely below estimates. And after the earnings, we saw a sharp fall in the stock. It has fallen up to 6%, but made a huge recovery. It has recovered almost 3% from day's low after management commentary. But first, talking about the numbers, profit was impacted by indexation benefit withdrawal and LTC taxes that was announced in the budget. Revenue was dragged by below than expected volumes. EBITDA has come in at a 3-quarter low. Margin has slipped below 12%. It's at a 5-quarter low, impacted by flat realization and high promotion expense. Talking about some internals, volumes were down 2% year-on-year, while sequentially it was up 4%. Realization, again, it's flat sequentially, but year-on-year it's up more than 2%. Gross margin, though, sees a minor improvement. Now, talking about the commentary, that company spoke after the earnings, and commentary regarding the demand was largely positive, and it's taken positively by the investor, and that's the reason we saw a huge recovery in the stock. What does company say? It says focus of the investors should be on retail numbers and not the wholesales, and for the festive seasons, that till Diwali, company is looking at the retail sales of almost 3 lakh units, resulting in a growth of almost 14%. Also, it has talked about discounts, and it believes that it should not be more than the before that company has recorded in the past. And lastly, talking about the inventory, it expects inventory to come down to 30 days by the end of the month. So overall, Q2 earnings were largely below estimates, but commentary related to festive demand might be taken positively by investors.
Sid, many thanks. Maruti Chairman R.C. Bhargav said that the industry is not optimistic about demand after the festive season. Answering CNBC TV 18's question, Bhargav added that Maruti expects 14% growth in retail sales in the festive season, that is till Diwali. Take a look.
In this festival season, we have seen a good traction in the market. The retail sales went up by 14%. The new bookings crossed 4 lakhs and about 16,000. So at the moment, the order book is quite healthy. We have yet to see what happens after the festival season ends with Diwali or a few days after Diwali. We don't know. But overall, we are not, the industry is not very optimistic that there's going to be a great upsurge in demand.
Well, that's R.C. Bhargav. The other big newsmaker this evening, Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth believes 7% growth is doable in the current fiscal. Speaking exclusively to CNBC TV 18 in Washington, D.C., he added that the economy could see very strong growth in Q3 and Q4. Seth also said the government is confident of meeting the FY25 capex target, and that is despite slower capital spends by some states. Take a look.
What is the government's thinking? Do you foresee that we will be able to achieve 7% growth target?
Certainly. These are the estimates, and not just that RBI has estimated. Even if you look at what the IMF latest estimates are, they're also of the order of about 7% for the current financial year. So these are very much doable numbers, and one should not go by the first quarter number, which came at 6.7%.
Sure.
There are reasons behind it why those numbers were 6.7%. But we see that a very strong growth to come in the third quarter as well as in the fourth quarter. And of course, second quarter numbers will also be expect by 30th November. We'll have those numbers another month's time. And we do expect that overall year growth should be of the order of 4%.
That's the Economic Affairs Secretary. Prime Minister Modi launched healthcare-related projects worth nearly 13,000 crore rupees today. This includes a PLI scheme for bulk drugs and medical devices. The government's flagship insurance scheme, Ayushman Bharat, was also extended to all senior citizens above the age of 70. The healthcare push was announced on the occasion of the 9th Ayurveda Day. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, Pharma Secretary Arunish Chawla said the growth of the biosimilars market is outpacing that of the generics industry.
A biological and biosimilar ecosystem is now fast growing in the country, and if growth numbers are any evidence, then the biosimilars and the biological segment is now outpacing the growth in generics. And if I can give you some numbers, then already 100 biosimilars and complex generic molecules have been approved in our country, and 40 plus of them are in clinical development.
That's the Pharma Secretary. Bharti Airtel reported a better-than-expected Q2. However, leadership change announcement did weigh on the stock today. The company's CEO, Shashwat Sharma, will succeed Gopal Vittal as the Managing Director and CEO starting January 2026. Now, in an earnings call, Vittal said that he remains fully committed to the group and that he will slowly take on some of the responsibilities that Sunil Mittal currently undertakes.
Shashwat will be appointed CEO designate and will take over the role of MD and CEO on January 1, 2026. Shashwat joined us in 2018 from Hindustan Unilever. Over these last 6 years, he's been given a series of well-thought-through and planned experiences where he has created impact. I will be stepping up to the role of Vice Chair and MD for this year, 2025, and eventually as Executive Vice Chair for Bharti Airtel.
Well, that's Gopal Vittal on the succession plan at Bharti Airtel. On to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Market regulator SEBI has sent Axis Bank and its subsidiaries show cause notices related to the group's acquisition of a stake in Max Life Insurance. Sources tell us that the show cause notices posed 5 questions about the deal's pricing to the Axis Group and Max Financial. Yash is standing by with more. Yash, what clarifications have Axis Bank and Max Financials been asked for by the regulator?
Just on Friday, Axis Bank informed the exchanges that they've received a show cause notice from market regulator SEBI, and this show cause notice is related to the Axis entities and Max Life transaction, where Axis entities have altogether acquired about a 19% stake in Max Life Insurance. As far as the deal itself is concerned, it was broken into multiple parts. In the first tranche, Axis entities acquired about 13% stake in Max Life Insurance. That was done at a price of 32 rupees per share, after which the insurance regulator had said that the deal has not happened at a fair market value and hence Axis Bank as well as Max Financial Services were penalized, and the deal had to be revised for the balance part of the transaction. What we've been given to understand is that SEBI show cause notice has come down with respect to the same discrepancy when it comes to the pricing of the transaction. And as far as the show cause notice from market regulator SEBI is concerned, it primarily is asking 5 important questions to Axis Bank as well as Max Financial Services. The first question is, why was the pricing of Axis Max Life deal so discrepant from the transactions which have happened in Max Life Insurance earlier? The second question is, was the discounted pricing as far as Axis Max Life deal is concerned done to benefit Axis Bank? That's an important question coming from market regulator SEBI. Third one is, how did the discounted price, which was 32 rupees a share for 13% stake, beneficial at all for Max Financial Services? The fourth question is, why should it be assumed that the public shareholders of Max Financial Services did not get the right value out of Axis Max Life deal? And fifth and the most important concluding question, that was why no action should be taken against Axis Bank Max Financial Services for hurting the interest of public shareholders of Max Financial Services. A rough calculation would suggest that if the deal would have happened at fair market value, that was done later, 113 rupees a share, Axis Bank would have had to shell out about over 2,600 crore additional for that 13% stake which it acquired.
Yash, many thanks for joining us. The union government moots incentives for data centres under the revised policy. Sources say merely setting up a data centre is unlikely to be incentivised. Benefits will be linked to the compute power provided by data centres. Now, the Nagpur police has identified a 35-year-old man as the person behind a series of hoax bomb threats to airlines. Remember, the aviation sector has received over 400 hoax bomb threats in the last 14 days. Madhya is standing by with the details. Madhya, only one arrest has been made so far in this matter, and a breakthrough still elusive. What do you know about this suspect in Nagpur?
Well, the special branch of Nagpur police has identified this man with the name Jagdish Uke. He's 35 years old, and an official told CNBC TV18 that he's the man who sent several hoax bomb threats to various airlines. He's currently on the run after the bomb threats were traced back to him. The police have formed a special team to arrest this perpetrator. There's limited information about him at the moment, but what we have been told is that this man has a history of such mischiefs, and he was also arrested in 2021 in some case. He also authored a book on terrorism. It will be a major breakthrough if the police manages to arrest this man and proves that he is indeed the one behind the hoax bomb threats. If not all, then at least some of them. Now, this has been a never-seen-before situation in India's aviation history. Over 400 flights, as you mentioned, received bomb threats, mostly online in the last 14 days. And there has been limited clue on the motive and the hands behind these threat messages.
Madhya, many thanks for joining us. We will head into a break, but up next, the festive spirit is rubbing off on the real estate sector. Home sales are seeing an uptick. A special report when we return. You can catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Well, you're watching India Business Hour. The disengagement process between Indian and Chinese troops in the Despang and Demchok areas of eastern Ladakh almost over. Sources have told CNBC TV 18 that the armies of both nations are currently verifying the withdrawal of personnel and dismantling of military infrastructure in sensitive zones along the LAC. The verification process will be conducted jointly by both armies. In international news, with a week left for the US presidential elections, the candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, are locked in a dead heat. Speaking in a rally in Georgia, a swing state, former U.S. President and Republican frontrunner Donald Trump claimed that he is the opposite of a Nazi. His statement comes after he received backlash for the comments that were made at his Madison Square Garden rally. He also accused Kamala Harris of being a fascist. Democrat presidential candidate Kamala Harris, meanwhile, fired up young voters at her rally in Michigan, also a swing state, joined by her running mate Tim Walz. Harris urged voters to cast their votes early. She's also expected to speak in Washington, D.C. later tonight. This is the same spot where Donald Trump addressed his supporters in his infamous rally on the 6th of January 2021, right before the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Jeff Bezos has defended Washington Post's decision not to endorse any presidential candidate this election. In an op-ed published in the Post, Bezos wrote that presidential endorsements create a perception of bias and non-independence. He added that ending the endorsement was a principled decision. The Post reportedly lost 2 lakh digital subscribers on the back of this move. Back home, the real estate sector has been looking forward to the festive season this year. They have been hoping the demand will be looking good as far as this auspicious period is concerned as people look to buy homes. And initial trends suggest that this hope is fructifying. Rumi Chakrabarti and Timsi Jayapuri report that builders are looking forward to an uptick in home sales this year.
Ganesh Chaturthi, Dhanteras, Diwali. These are just a few of the festivals that dot India's 4-month-long festive season. And this year, it's a period property developers and builders have been looking forward to. With a large portion of the country looking to buy a new home during this time, developers are readying for new launches. Estimates suggest this festive season could see launches of more than 1 lakh crore rupees worth of residential projects in the Delhi NCR alone, with many developers even delaying their launches to coincide with this auspicious period. Initial data suggests developers will not be disappointed this year.
So we do see a growth from last year's season to this year's season of an incremental of about 10% in overall sales, which took place in the last season and this season. And we also being able to see a different thing, which we expect. It may take a little longer to fructify, is the affordable housing sector.
I would say the mood has been sustained. If you look at between the previous year and this year, you will find a 2-3% increment in sale. But the values have gone up by about 10%. The sale percentage probably will go up by 2%.
Developers have reason to cheer. This April to June and July to September quarters, while traditionally sluggish, have been more so this year. Data from Housing.com says that the April to June quarter saw residential property sales coming in 15% lower than a year ago, while new supplies were down 10%. And in the July to September quarter, sales were down 5%. While new launches plunged 25%. This is now showing signs of changing. Investor Experts Consumer Sentiment Report says 65% of potential buyers are actively considering real estate investments during the 2024 festive window, compared to 45% last year. Discounts, special festive offers and government schemes like the extended Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana are all expected to help spur this demand along, especially in Tier 2 markets.
Developers on their part are making some attractive offers in terms of discounts, more amenities, other sort of handouts along with the homes being sold. So we are pretty confident that the October to December quarter, as well as the January to March quarter, will see a revival in sales.
Developers say market analysis data shows that 76% of prospective home buyers get attracted with developer discounts, zero EMI schemes, attractive payment plans, waived stamp duties, anything that reduces the financial burden buying a home comes with. But real push to the needle will come with reduced interest rates, because cheaper loans will mean reducing interest burden and that interest getting converted into actual purchases. With Rumi Chakrabarti in Mumbai, in New Delhi, Timsi Jayapuri.
And digital arrest, a new form of online scam, has been on the rise. Indians have lost close to 120 crore rupees in just 3 months this year. Let's break down how these scams operate and what you can do to protect yourself. Rachna is standing by with the details. Rachna, explain to us what this digital arrest is about and how one can stay safe.
120 crore rupees. That's how much Indians have lost in just 4 months from January to April this year to the online scam of a digital arrest. This is as per the Union Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, you also may have heard of such calls or may have just received that call. It's when an unknown number calls telling you that you have committed a crime of some nature. The nature has been different with different people. It could vary from a fraud or a parcel in your name containing drugs, a false rape case, or even an ED case. The modus operandi of these scammers is pretty simple. They will call you, and the tone of the caller and the nature of the subject would be such that it would create an instant fear, followed by the urgency to act towards it. They also play heavily on unawareness of the law, because in India, there is no concept of a digital arrest whereby a cop or an authority can just video call you and make the arrest. As the cases rise, the scammers are getting more and more sophisticated. They may even ask you to come and meet them somewhere. It's in that moment one has to remain calm. This is also what the Prime Minister has advised. PM's advisory suggests taking 3 steps. First, not to panic. Record or take a screen recording if possible. Second, remember that no government agency will ever threaten you online. Third, take action by dialing 1930 to connect with the National Cyber Helpline and also inform the police. Apart from this, there are some do's and don'ts that can help you remain safe. First, limit unknown calls. On WhatsApp, adjust your settings to prevent calls from unsaved numbers. Secondly, use identification apps like Truecaller to help recognize and report scam numbers. And lastly, block suspicious numbers. This is what you can do to stay out of a scammer's reach. But there are also some things you may want to avoid, like answering calls with international codes unless you're certain of the source. Never share personal details. Scammers often ask questions to gain your trust and then exploit that information. Do not succumb to the pressure. Stay calm and take your time to think. And don't engage with the scammers. If you suspect it's a scam call, hang up immediately. Lastly, limit sharing your details on random websites and even in offline spaces. It's from there the data is handed over to the scammers. So stay safe and be aware.
Well, that is very helpful, Rachna. Many thanks for joining us. Please do pay heed to what you just heard there. This is for your own safety. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Here's wishing all our viewers a very happy Dhanteras. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news will continue here on CNBC TV 18.